Alright, so hey everybody, first off, thanks for responding to the video. Give me a few questions and a few topics to make this video about. But anyway, let's get right down to it. So I got several questions, and question number one: what's the best way to get better or learn or get better at bike maintenance? Kind of a two-part question there. So it kind of depends on what your goals are. I mean, are you looking to, if you're a younger person, maybe looking to get into the bike industry, that's one aspect. If you're just somebody that you enjoy riding bikes, your family has bikes, and you want to do some bike riding, or you want to maintain your own bike yourself or your fleet of bikes for your family, then so bikes in general, repairing, maintenance, everything else, it's a pretty wide spectrum. So I'll get back to kind of when I started and as far as everything up until now, but probably the best way is going to be to learn as much as you can about your particular bikes that you're going to be working on. So I would say first off, do some research and such on your particular application. I wouldn't generally try to learn everything all at once. Maybe learn what you can on your particular bike or application and kind of go from there. Everybody's going to be a little different. Some people are going to be a little more mechanically inclined, some not. Some may have some previous experience, some not. So it just kind of depends on where you're at that point. If you're wanting to just do basic things like keep the tires inflated, keep the bike riding smooth and things like that, that's one thing. But if you're wanting to switch out major components or build new wheels, you're kind of getting off into another spectrum. So I would say basically focus on the things that you're going to be dealing with primarily. If you're looking to get into getting into the bike industry, working as a bike mechanic, I say younger person, you could do it at any age. A younger person is basically going to have an advantage because it does take a while to learn everything if that's what you're kind of wanting to go with. But if you just want to maintain your own kind of fleet of bikes or whatever, your particular bike, learn as much as you can about that bike. Get the tools that you're going to need for your particular application. Don't buy a big tool set for things you're never going to use, and just kind of go from there. I don't know. It's, the thing with being a bike mechanic, I've been doing it since the late 70s. I started working in bike shops in 1983, and I think the biggest thing a lot of bike mechanics make, the biggest error they make is thinking they kind of know it all, and you never really stop learning. So if you can learn a better way, always look for a better process, a better system. That would be my advice. Just focus on what you're going to be doing. If you're wanting to get into the bike industry, you got a lot to learn, and just take it step by step and kind of take it from there. Number two, how did you get started? Well, so sometime in the I guess around 1977-ish or so, I got my first real, I guess what you could say is a quality bike. I had one before that, I don't know when, probably early mid 70s, that I rode for a while and it got stolen. So kind of the BMX thing was starting to get big in the 75, 74, 75, 76, and I'd see these bikes rolling around, so that's what I wanted. My dad ended up buying me this used, I remember we went to a few bike shops and looked at them, but we couldn't afford any of those, so he eventually bought me this used, kind of a clapped out Webco bike that I made some videos about, and that's what I started with. and I kind of just had to learn out of necessity how to keep it rolling, basically. So that's kind of my initial, you know, my dad basically showed me the basic things on how to work on it and stuff, turn a wrench, tools, things like that. So I'd say somewhere around probably the turning point was around 1979. My dad took me we went and saw this movie called Breaking Away. And if you've never seen it, I highly recommend, if you're into bikes in any spectrum, you should go. I highly recommend you watch that movie. And it was kind of a turning point for me. There's kind of a couple sequences in there where the character he's really into, you know, road racing and such, but he's fixing up this bike for the little 500, and I don't know, it was kind of it kind of was very inspirational to me, and something that kind of changed my way of thinking. And I don't know, kind of, so from there, you know, shortly after that I started racing, you know, 79, 80, started racing BMX bikes, and then probably around 82, 83 or so, we kind of, you know, me, my dad, my brothers, we kind of thought we knew it all. So my dad decided to start a bike shop in 1983. And so that's essentially where I started working in the bike industry. I never really went to any schools or anything like that. I just kind of learned everything from just doing it, you know, maybe a few books and things like that. I remember when I first started, I read a book at the library on how to rebuild a coaster brake hub. It was kind of, I don't know, whatever. But that's kind of when I started. You know, from there, after that, I just kind of went from shop to shop and basically just learned as I went along. You know, and back then the bikes were pretty simple. Everything was, you know, there wasn't really index shifting. It was either road bikes or BMX bikes. You know, and then of the road bike spectrum, you had kind of the racers and you kind of had the tourist people. That was pretty much it. As time went along, you know, mountain bikes started coming along in the early mid-80s, and kind of up from there. They really got traction in the mid-80s up into the 90s. So I was working at another shop, and I don't know, and so on and so on. Learned a little more each shop I went to, and to the current date. So yeah, I don't want to get too long-winded into each of these topics, but yeah, so I've had some folks, you know, say they really enjoyed my frame build topics, and you know what? I enjoyed them too. Those are probably my favorite videos to make. But the situation is, we moved, my wife and myself and my family, we moved here to Denver. Kind of, you know, my wife's pursuing some of her goals. She's going to grad school here in Denver, and so the basic situation is we're in an apartment right now. Cost of living here in Denver, Colorado is quite a bit higher than from what it was when I lived in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So we're basically living in an apartment, and the goal is within a year, maybe 2 years, we're going to be in a house that has a garage, and I'll get back to my being able to tinker with stuff, do some metalworking, welding, things like that. Currently all my welding stuff is in a storage unit in Oklahoma City. So yeah, I miss it too. I'll get back to that as soon as I can. So until then, you know, I've actually got a few different frame builds planned, and I'm probably going to do another, you know, I've got a lot of video footage that I never maybe posted, or some that I have, but I'm going to consolidate and do a couple other little maybe frame building videos before then. But my goal is within the next year or two we're going to be having some more of those. Another question was the access, the SRAM 12-speed access wireless. Some info on that. Well, I actually did a video end of March on like a Yeti. I did an Axis build on that, so maybe you didn't catch that, but it's there, so check that out. Like a shop tour at the shop I'm at now. I've been working at the shop, the current shop I'm at now, for that shop has been open about a year. Their grand opening was May 5th of 2018, so we're coming up on a full year officially. But I'll try to do a little run through of the shop there where I'm working now. So it's a pretty cool shop. We got some stuff dialed in over the winter, so I'll do a little preview of that. And that shop's currently constantly evolving, rapidly growing, so I'll put some things up on that. Alright, another question. How does Campagnolo, how does that compare to like the SRAM and Shimano current? You know, a lot of people, I've noticed there's a huge camp of Campagnolo lovers, and then there's people that are whatever. So my experience with Campagnolo, I first started riding, racing and stuff, you know, got into road bikes in maybe 84, 85. My first ever road bike was a Tomasini. It was like a tray tubey. It's kind of an economy version that, you know, I cobbled together, and I had a few, you know, I had a Campagnolo headset and bottom bracket, because at that time frame, like the early 80s, pretty much from when I watched Breaking Away, and I'm sure before then, but up until that time, Campagnolo was it. And it was the top-notch, top dog, the best quality. You know, you could get Shimano or the Suntour Superb stuff. It was good. I remember this vividly. A guy came into the shop that my dad started. This is probably 84, 85. And he was talking to a buddy of his, and he's like, now, Shimano and Suntour, they get the job done. But Campagnolo, it's like... And so, that's how it was. Campy was the best. The bearings were just smoother, better. Everything was just better about it. And then somewhere around 85, 86, Shimano, the Durace, I remember the first thing I noticed, their pedals. They had these low-profile pedals that you could lean into corners a little deeper. And so guys were like, oh, these Shimano pedals are a little better. And then next came the index shifting. And, you know, to me at that point it was like, index shifting? You need an index to find your gears? I mean, that's like a rookie thing. If you can't find your, you know, it was all down tube shifters at that point. So, you know, in my first few experiences of seeing guys riding with that, it was all, people didn't really know how to adjust it, so it was all, I don't know, I thought it was kind of hokey, kind of stupid at the time. But then I think the turning point for me was when the Hyperglide stuff came out, and you could virtually, in the rear cog, shift under full power. For me, that was the game changer. And, you know, ever since then, I think, honestly, Shimano's had a little bit of a lead over Campy since then. This is late 80s, early 90s. When SRAM came on the scene, you know, they're trying to do things a little different. They're, you know, avoiding, trying to, it's a big row to hoe to avoid Shimano's patents and things like that, and they come up with something that's actually functional, affordable, and different. So, you know, honestly for me, I've been kind of a SRAM guy. I've used Shimano stuff. My current bikes are either SRAM or Shimano. I kind of prefer the SRAM stuff, but hey, that's just me. I'm not saying that's what you should use. There's still a lot of, you know, I still deal with tons of campy guys out there, and I think the campy stuff is great. The thing is, for me, I'm kind of a low budget guy. I've always scrounged and had to scrape to get parts to ride and race and things like that. So, you know, the campies, you're going to pay twice the price for, you know, and people say, well, it's so much better, but performance, they're all pretty equal. But you're going to basically be paying about twice the price for campy, be thereabouts. I know as far as the electronic stuff goes, I'm sorry, but it's a pain. I don't know how else to put it. campy stuff's good, but it's I don't know. It takes some stuff to deal with it sometimes, as far as electronic stuff wise. So anyway, next question: how do you deal with the risks associated with working on stuff, insurance, whatnot? Okay, so most of the stuff I do is actually through the shop, which is going to have insurance. I don't do a ton of freelance work. I mean, I have done some. It's basically been close friends and things like that. But, you know, if you look at the big picture of everything, manufacturers and mechanics and everything else, I mean, there's a lot of liability, potential liability that you could be responsible for, but in the grand scheme of things, who's actually responsible? You could actually do some shoddy work that, you know, is bad. If you, it's kind of just experience-wise, you know, how much do you trust what you're actually doing? You got to just kind of take a deep look at, do you know what you're actually doing? Have you seen some things fail and how they fail and why they fail, things like that? So if you're not totally confident and sure of what you're doing and how things can go wrong, I probably wouldn't be trying to do it for profit. You know, it would be good to work for an actual business first for maybe a minimum of 5 years before you try to start freelancing things. So it's kind of up to you. You know, it's kind of a slippery slope, but you know, people talk about that a lot in the frame building industry. But you know, honestly, in the bike maintenance industry, it's probably just every bit as relevant. You know, so I would say start at a shop or something, if at all possible, and learn the ropes, learn what's right and wrong, and see some things, how things have failed. You know, that's kind of the thing that takes years to sort of acquire all that information, to understand it. And so, yeah, you know, it's kind of, it's a gray area. It's up to you. You got to kind of use your best judgment. If you don't feel comfortable with something, don't do it. Okay, so another question. So the question was, we had a viewer with an RD R8000 rear derailleur, which is the newer style 11-speed Ultegra. This particular one's a medium length cage, which it'll accept up to a 34-tooth rear cassette, the big cog there. But anyway, let's just kind of go over some of the items here. We got the high limit screw, low limit screw. That's your B tension screw. I suspect the issue on this one is going to be a limit screw adjustment. So you can see that little nub there as it rests right up against the derailleur cage. The end of the screw hits it. That's the high limit screw. And then if I kind of look at it from this other angle, we can see the low limit screw. So you're getting into the bigger cogs. You can see, bam, it hits the end of that little piece on the derailleur. The screw end hits the end of it. So if we were to take these screws out, we could physically make this derailleur go up probably an inch up into the spokes, or out past the end of the frame on the high limit there. So those basically just give you a range to cover the cassette there. So I kind of presume that our issue is going to be just that the high limit screw needs to be backed off a little. This particular setup here, I actually turn the high limit screw in a couple turns just to simulate what could be happening here. So if I back it off a little, now it's going to go down into that 11-tooth cog, but it's still making a little bit of noise. So for the viewer, I would say basically take that thing and turn it maybe half a turn counterclockwise. Basically you just want to shoot for getting that pulley just directly below the 11-tooth cog. So give that a try. Hopefully that helps. I'm going to try to do a full video here at some point on this derailleur. So yeah, hopefully that little tip helped you out there. Okay, so final question was about the Specialized OSBB bottom bracket, how to remove the cups, and I've tried for the last few days to find an example of how to do this. Didn't have much success, so I'll try to put some kind of video together here at some point soon. But anyway, that OSBB it's basically the press fit 30, BB 30. Specialized just kind of loops it all into one thing, so it actually covers a pretty wide spectrum. But without seeing anything, I'm just going to assume it's like a press fit system that has the cups. I know at some point Specialized put some aluminum sleeves that they epoxied into the frame, which that you don't want to try to remove that. You probably could potentially damage the frame. But if it's just the plastic, like a SRAM press fit 30 cup, you're not planning on reusing them, just punch and a hammer, knock them out. If somebody's decided to Loctite those in there for some reason, you can maybe hit it with a heat gun just to warm everything up. Don't get too buck wild on it, damage your carbon frame. But if it's like an aluminum aftermarket type cup that's pressed in, just kind of same thing. Take a, sometimes like a tool that you use to remove a headset cup. Those work pretty decent sometimes, but otherwise just a punch and a hammer, just kind of alternate, top, bottom, side to side evenly, kind of knock it out as even as possible. But anyway, yeah, that's gonna, hopefully this video was informative, entertaining, maybe not too long-winded. So anyway, that's gonna wrap it up. And appreciate all the questions and everything, and everybody that's subscribed to the channel, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.